Gormagat Cahirlocht, good morning to all of you. Look, can I just say that all research is welcome across a number. I know it's a very broad range of issues that you've done research with and engaged with people on. But as the Autism Committee, then you have come and have findings from autistic people who engage in the process. And I suppose as a committee, we're tasked with coming up with a report with recommendations in another couple of months. So, I mean, any advice for the committee would be very welcome for a start from the information that you received from autistic people. I suppose one thing, Dr. Lopez, you mentioned there about causes and genetic causes, and about 20% of autistic people is being related to genetic causes. Is that 20% and 80% not, or is it that enough research hasn't been done? I suppose it was a bit of a surprise to me because, okay, the prevalence of autism is much higher, but is that because we weren't aware of autistic people? And it's like disabled people in general, or it's not even that autism is a disability, it's a different ability, really. But they were often boxed in and sometimes labelled in not very nice terms and often institutionalised over the years. So is it just that there's a better awareness now, or is there an actual increase in autism in recent years from your research? And you've also said your research in drug therapies and undergoing clinical trials. Exactly what would the drugs are what would they be treating? Because I just am concerned. I know there's a place for drugs in treating, say for example, mental health. But sometimes we have an over-reliance on drugs to treat people with mental health issues and not enough on other therapies, such as in the case of autism, speech and language, or occupational therapy and so on. So it's just a little bit of a concern there, but maybe you clarify a little bit more about both the genetic testing and the drug therapies. Thank you.
Through them, thank you very much. And I suppose just to pick up on the first thing about the importance of the autistic voice in all the research, you mentioned that at the very start, and in the importance of engaged research, so that the autism community, and you talked about, say, your report to write, that would be my one, I suppose, key message, the importance of the autistic community and the voice in research and in engaged research. So not just us as researchers listening, but to be taking part in the research, from setting the research priorities all the way through the engaged research life cycle to actually undertaking research and disseminating the research as well. So to be involved in the whole process of research, that's really important, and I think that's a really key aspect. In terms of the genetic causes then as well, you mentioned 20%. So as I mentioned, we're discovering more and more genetic variants and genetic explanations for autism, and we know much more now than we did 5 years ago. So it's this international collaborative efforts where the technology as well. So we have international researchers coming together, making discoveries, and then also the technology has enabled us to look at much more at our genomes to be able to do that, and to be also to understand that within the family context as well. Then in terms of the more diagnosis, I suppose that's fourfold diagnosis over the last 20 years. The research shows that the majority of that is because of diagnostic expansion, so that we're much more aware of the diagnosis of that. And then in terms of the drug, I was highlighting a European consortium, and one of theirs is Arblaklöffen, and that works on social interactions. So that's in development as well. So that's a European consortium that's involved in that. But throughout that European consortium, they have the engaged research element of it's called AREPs, Autism Representatives, where they're involved in every step of the research process, so listening to the voice of the research. Thank you.
If I might come in on your first question, Jules, as well, to any general recommendations, sort of more broadly. Something I've learned in the course of doing this as well is I read through the submissions that come through Creating Our Future. I read through what people say that is important. And what I found is that by having the conversation with research colleagues who are much more versed in what this actually means, there's an opportunity for a deeper interpretation of what the recommendations could mean. they have the experiences and the anecdotes that actually can really bring that next level of depth. So I think as a general recommendation, it's to actually look at those, what the public tell us, look at what people who are autistic tell us, and then actually connect into those researchers to help bring that deeper understanding and translation of it sometimes. Certainly for me, that was, I found that very valuable because it was a real way to get deeper behind what those recommendations meant.